We're recording now.
Oh, am I on? Am I loud enough?
Here we go.
All right.
What's up, guys, and welcome to Gnar Talk. I'm your host, Corey, and I'm joined by our producer, Lori, who is going to attempt to keep our asses on track, and our lovely engineer, Tripper.
Yeah.
A little background is Lori and I run a Harley repair shop located in Richmond, Virginia, called Engine and Frame. It's also home to a community garage, which is basically a shop that's open to the public, so they can rent space and tools to work on their own shit. We kind of just started this podcast to answer people's questions, motorcycle questions, whatever other burning desires you might have, and to entertain the shit out of you fools. So, we got street life going still, Trip? Is that what we're doing right now? Yeah, it is?
Yeah,
all
it's still going.
All right.
That's a good song.
No, fair enough. We got good on all the mics. We working?
Yeah, I believe so.
We grooving?
Laurie?
Yeah, I'm here. Sound
Yeah,
good?
everyone's here. We're
All
good.
right.
All right, right on. So yeah, how's everyone doing?
This is going to be awesome. This is the first real podcast that we've done. Our last week's attempt came out a little messy.
Wasn't awful though.
It wasn't awful. It sounded pretty good.
I've definitely listened to worse fucking garbage.
Yeah. This week we're on point. We got questions. We got people to talk to.
It's true.
That's what we're here for.
Speaking of which, if you have a question, you can email it to info@Engine and Frame, or you can send it to our Facebook, which is facebook.com/Engine and Frame. Or also you can DM on Instagram, which is Engine and Frame. So that's pretty fucking easy. All the social stuff's out of the way. That's rad, right?
Do you have Google Plus?
Maybe.
Foursquare?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Tumblr?
Wow.
No.
Pinterest?
We do.
We do have a Pinterest.
Really?
I use it.
You like to take pictures and stuff?
No.
I like to look at other people's
I don't
pictures.
understand what Pinterest
It's just a picture
is.
board. It's just to look at pictures. Just to get ideas. It's an idea board. So you
Okay.
can flip through and look at the ideas that you saved because you liked them.
That's like, so if you want an infinity tattoo with an arrow going through
Yeah,
it,
you can find 10,000 of them.
you just go on Pinterest?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then you show your tattoo artist, this is what I want.
Nice.
Speaking of which, Trevor, get tattooed today?
I did just get a giant tattoo on my arm today, and it hurts, and I'm tired because of it.
Where'd you go?
I went to All for One Tattoo in Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
I saw Karina there, and she did a really good job.
Yeah. I can't wait to have Dave.
But it
in
hurts. Yeah, Dave's going to be great.
Yeah, we're going to have Dave on.
Hey, speaking of, and I won't say too much about this, but he just got a new motorcycle today.
Here. No fucking way.
Yeah.
Really?
Like a whole one? Like a whole motorcycle?
It's
Like
a
it
complete
runs?
motorcycle in a box.
Oh, okay.
What is it?
Well, I don't want to give away too many details.
I
Okay,
mean, if I
well,
know Dave,
let's
I have
save
a
it.
pretty good idea what it already is.
What do you think it
It's
is?
the same thing he already has.
Nope.
No fucking way.
Yeah, it's
He
different.
didn't. It's not a shovelhead.
It's not a shovel
He
head.
got a Honda,
What?
didn't he?
No, it's still a Harley, but it's an odd one. It's cool.
Oh, good. Keeping it fresh.
We'll have him on here and we'll talk about it.
It's not a Sportster, is it?
No, it's not a Sportster.
Okay.
It's an oddball.
An oddball.
Yep.
What do you mean by an eyeball?
We'll find out. This will be.
Ooh, Tripper likes having secrets.
Trevor,
Yeah.
you're full of shit. Hey, here we go. First trivia question of the podcast. What's Dave's fucking new motorcycle?
Ooh, good one.
What
yeah.
is an oddball Harley that anxious Dave may or may not have just purchased in boxes?
Yeah, that's a trivia question for you.
If you get it right, you don't win shit.
We speaking of trivia, though, I would like to incorporate that somehow. at some
Yeah, I
point.
just did.
Okay.
Incorporated.
So, but people should get shit for
But
it.
you have to know
Go
the
for it.
people we're talking about.
Yeah,
No, I mean, we would do other trivia like, I don't know, something.
something motorcycle related.
Anyway, so I actually have a couple questions.
Yeah, let's start with questions. So people, we did actually post on our Instagram and Facebook for people to write in and ask us questions, or for people to give us their phone numbers so we could call them. Until we work out all the technical details, we'll be calling you. So yeah, what was the first question that we had?
The first one comes to us by a fella named Christopher Ralph. His name on Instagram is Mr. underscore Chris. There's lots of S's after it. He's got a buddy who has a shit. What's he got here? Hold on. An '03 as a '03 Ultra Classic, I believe, 28,000 miles, and he was the cam chain tensioner issue. For those of you that don't know, on the early twin cams, which is up to 2006, on everything except the Dynas, so up to 2005 on Dynas, the early cam chain tensioners Harley decided was a wear item, and they have a tendency to shit out. And when they do, it can be very, very awful. So there's a couple of different things you can do. One is replace them with the hydraulic tensioners, which is basically the same thing Harley went to on the later models. And there's a gazillion different kits. I usually just recommend the Screaming Eagle kit because it's the cheapest, honestly. It's like $500 as opposed to a lot of the other ones. But that's not to be said that S&S or Fueling or any of those other kits aren't awesome as well. I just don't have experience with them because people don't normally like to spend that kind of money. Anyway,
I have a quick question about that.
what's up?
What is a cam chain tensioner?
Well, on the twin cams, they have two cams as opposed to the single cam engines, like shovel heads and
Okay.
everything else, basically. So they have a cam chain to keep the cams in time with each other,
Oh,
and it runs on a chain to also keep it in time
like a jet bike.
with the flywheels, kind of, but
Sort
it's
of,
it's still on the
smaller.
lower end. It's not overhead,
Okay.
Much smaller too.
but they have tensioners just like a jet bike. And on the early ones, the early Harley ones, they were spring loaded. And I kind of think that it has more to do with the chain, because when they went to the hydraulic system, they also changed the chain to a roller chain. And the hydraulic system allows you to run the roller chain. And I think it's more about the chain than it is the actual tensioner. I think the chain is what destroys the tensioner. But that's just a guess.
So,
I don't really know if that's true.
but
That's
when
just
it,
me trying to
whenever
be
it finally
smart.
does wear out, though, you're saying we need to replace the chain as well as the tensioner.
Oh, when it does finally wear out, well, if they shatter, you usually end up, depending on how much you ride it, your bearings can just go through all throughout the engine and just
that's
wreck.
awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
can
fun.
it can get real fucking ugly fast. But his question was basically, should his buddy go with gear drive cams, which eliminates tensioners and chains altogether,
Gotcha. Okay.
or should he go with the hydraulics? Being that it's an '03, I would recommend hydraulics, and this is my reasoning behind it. I guess a little bit of background history. In '01, Harley was the last year Harley used Timken bearings in the flywheels, and on the twin cams they went to a roller bearing. And the roller bearings don't do the best job of keeping your run out in the flywheels. Also on the twin cams they went to a non-rebuildable flywheel. The problem with gear drive cams is you have to have a very low amount of run out to about 3,000ths or less. If you have more than that, you run into an issue where the gears get wonky and you get engine damage, which is exactly what you're trying to avoid. We just had one come in. Actually, it's a 2009 bagger. Yeah. yeah. 2009 bagger. And he had gear drive cams put in and had excessive run out to it was about 5,000ths when I measured it in the flywheels, and it destroyed one of the lifters, destroyed the bearings in the lifter, which ate up the cam, and he had a bunch of metal in his engine, essentially, and it's going to require a fair amount of work to get everything back. So I recommend the hydraulics unless you have earlier style flywheels, or you can also weld or earlier style flywheel bearings, or you can weld your flywheels, but that requires splitting cases, and it's just more work. So, long story short, go with hydraulic.
And the new chain.
Well, yeah, if you do the hydraulics, it allows you to run the newer chain.
Cool.
Basically, upgrades
Cool.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it
Did any of that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense
I
to
think
me.
it makes sense to me too.
And I didn't even know what that was.
I feel
All
like
right.
it all made my fucking head hurt trying
You
to
did
explain that.
I think that was a good explanation, though, to give it a little bit of background as well. So that's what we're here for. This is the point of this podcast is to teach as well as to enlighten.
Yeah, I think I kind of suck at teaching. I think
No,
that's
you're
the
doing a great
problem. All right.
For more information, you can come visit us at Engine and Frame.
1600 Valley Road, Richmond, Virginia, 2322222.
Do we want to call someone?
Yeah, let's call someone. Who should I call?
His name's Will. I actually already saved his.
Does he know that we're calling him?
I mean, I told him last week we were going to call him this week.
Well, this would be great. Let's just call him and see what happens.
Let's just call him and see what happens.
If you hit the phone, I copied it, so you should just be able to paste it into.
Well,
I would like to give people a preemptive phone call before the podcast.
I forgot, you know.
okay.
That'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Here we go. You ready?
One person talk, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like we're all like waiting, like it's a prank call or something.
Yeah.
Hello?
Will. Hello.
Hey, Will, can you hear us?
Hello?
Uh-oh. Will, hang on a second. I'm about to fix this problem. How about that? Will, can you hear us now? Can you hear us now?
I got you.
Okay.
Sweet. Hey, Will, it's Corey from
Hey,
Engine
Corey,
and
how you
Frame.
doing?
We're glad you answered. Lori was like, you didn't tell him. I was like, I told him we were going to call him last week, you know?
Yeah, I saw the post earlier today. I was like, oh, yeah, cool, man.
See, Will's smart.
I know, but sometimes people don't plan ahead, so I thought maybe we'd give them a chance to plan ahead.
She's right.
Well, I knew for sure. I was hoping. You were like, yeah, I'm already going to call one dude. I was like, holding my hand up. I'm like, yeah, that's hopefully me.
Okay, good. I'm glad that you're ready.
So what do you got going on?
Oh, man. So I've got the 74 Super Glide that I've had for about 20 years. And
How old are you, Will?
I'm 38.
Oh, you sound like a young buck there, Will.
Man, hey, you know, I just try to stay with it.
Right on.
But I've had it for a long time. I've ridden this thing to California 5 times.
Good God.
Yeah, from New York State, and I've been in Richmond about 13 years now. But back in the day, I had a couple of dudes that that I was tight with that used to help me out on some tech and stuff. And I've done all my own work for a long time. Back in the day, it was either I fixed it or it stayed in the garage.
Right.
You know what I mean? I couldn't really afford to do what I needed to.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just kind of gotten out of the game. I've had a couple of kids, and you know what I mean. I work a lot, and I don't even spend as much time in the seat as I would like, let alone in the garage. So I got my transmission main seal is leaking, and I've seen numerous posts from you guys and whatnot, and I figured maybe I would call into this podcast and kind of get some info and see what you guys were all about, and what insight you had.
Cool.
The good
you know
old,
what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, the 4-speed main shaft leak.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, they do that. There's a couple of different things I've seen people do. I don't know if you're familiar with this. There's the super nut. Do you have an open primary or no?
No, closed.
Okay.
And that's the thing. It blows out when it's like when I'm growing the motor. I'll find like a little bit bigger than a $50 spot right under it. When I'm growing the motor, and that's really the only time that it's really coming out of the transmission.
And you're positive it's the transmission and not the primary?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and it is, and it actually is blowing through. I think it's following the rod out to the primary because I have training fluid in the primary as well.
Okay.
And like I put the new O-ring on the clutch rod and whatnot because I was like, oh well, it's leaking past this O-ring or whatever, and that's not taking care of it.
Yeah, because you've got. So yeah, I've seen a couple of different things. So since you've got the inner primary, you've obviously got your main shaft that's acting as main shaft support, so that's good. I've seen where some people will machine out. There's the spacer. You've got that spacer in the transmission. Seen where they'll machine that out so you can run an extra O-ring. I've also seen where people will machine out the main drive gear so you can run an extra O-ring, which we do not have the capabilities to do. I have a buddy named Robbie who found a dude on like a shovel head for him, and he machined out his spacer because he was going through the same thing. Now he was running an open primary, but he had tried a gazillion different things to get this fucking thing to stop leaking, and he eventually ended up doing that. And he said it still even leaks a little bit, but it's definitely not as bad.
Right.
I should probably try to find that guy's information for you. You might have to do something weird like that. Is everything? Right. I mean, I assume the primary's running straight. I mean, the transmission, like all that stuff's running straight. You don't have any side load.
No, I don't believe so. It's the bike, man. I've done a lot of work to it, man. It's in pretty solid shape, man. Really for a 74. It's it's pretty solid shape, man. Everything's pretty true. I've been through the frame. I've been through the primary. I've been through the motor. I've custom machined some parts on it aside of, the motor and tranny and stuff, man. Some, the fender's custom. I got a custom caliper mount and stuff. I mean, like I said, I've had this bike for 100 years. You know what I mean? I've been, been through everything on it. It was 74 cubic inch. Now it's 89. It's pretty solid, man.
Yeah.
Nothing leaks on this whole bike. I mean, there's not a drop underneath this thing of oil anywhere except for that tranny fluid.
Yeah. And that seems appropriate. Those fucking things, man. I'm serious.
You know what
That's
I mean?
the answer.
Is that just a case flaw?
Dude, no, it's just they fucking leak. I mean, there's been so many different things that have come out. Like there's the super nut, which is the main shaft nut with an extra oil seal built into it, and you also can run another O-ring. I don't know if you can run that if you run a primary though. I also saw there's another one called the overbearing, which I think that's also for with an open primary, which is a nut with an extra bearing installed into it. I mean, there's a lot of people that have come out with several different fixes for those things. But I think most of them involve open primaries.
Right.
And since you have the actual primary, like you're getting that. Because with the open primaries, that's one of the big problems is you're not getting your bearing support.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But you have that. Or you're not getting your shaft support, I should say.
Right.
Which in turn puts too much side load on it and it fucks the seal up.
Yep.
But with running the primary, you have your support. So
it's not leaking as much.
Yeah. I mean, how many times have you replaced that seal?
Let's see. Over the years, that's probably
When's the last time you did it?
Let's see. I did I fried the tranny about 5 years ago.
You should never fry your tranny.
Oh my God, dude! Listen, this thing has seen more rear tires and has seen wide open throttle, probably more than it's cared to. But it's and I had somebody professionally do the tranny for me and actually install it too. And I didn't have it was totally tight prior, and then so I put I don't know, maybe 1,500 miles on it, and it developed this leak. And so I went back to the quote professionals, and I'm like, hey man, I got 1,000 miles on this thing, and it's blowing fluid everywhere. While I'm trying to grow this thing. They're like, oh, bring it in. We'll take a look at it and, leave it there for 3 or 4 days. And they say, oh yeah, come back and get it. We got it all fixed up for you. And then, 3 days after, I pick it up from them.
It starts leaking again.
Same thing. Yeah. I'm like, okay.
I wonder if there's not something else going on, man.
Well, it's like, and there very well could be. And,
if you don't have something that's nicking it or something, you know what I mean?
Right. I mean, yeah, and really what I'm looking for is, yeah, man, maybe you had this handy dandy trick in your back pocket, like, a bunch of old school shovelhead guys do, like, oh, here, do this, and this will straighten you up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't. I wish that I did. And
Me
there
too,
might
man.
there. I mean, fuck, there might be something.
Right.
I by no means have all the goddamn answers. All I
Sure.
know is what I've seen. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I know that leak is. I mean, those things are fucking notorious for main shaft leaks.
I mean, seriously, yeah. If somebody could just develop, and I've heard of a couple of those things that you mentioned, with the double seals and everything on there, and I just wish I was one of those guys that had, a 4-speed that didn't leak. You know?
Don't we all?
Yeah.
I've got a 4-speed that doesn't even have fluid in it. I'm pretty sure it leaks.
Right on, right on.
You said you got a. What was the other thing? You have an iron
Oh,
head?
so yeah, I got this.
Oh,
I got the '79 Ironhead, right? Like the biggest black cloud that ever hung over.
anybody ever.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I've had this thing. I rode it a lot at one time when I was young. And actually, that was actually my first Harley Davidson.
My
That was
dad
right
had a
after my.
79.
That was my first Harley after my first bike, which was a '65 Bonnie chopper, 6/37 degrees raked. This is what I started on. But after riding that pogo stick around for a couple years, I was like, oh, but get something, I'm going to get on a Harley. And I got that 79 for basically nothing, and retired it, so to speak, when I got this 74. And man, it's been like a pile. It's been like a pile of nuts and bolts in my garage since I moved to Richmond. And I think like I lost a couple of boxes of like nuts and bolts, and you know what I mean? Because I've been through parts like, oh, okay, I'll powder coat this and set it over here, and whatnot. But it's got like several things I need to do. Like I need to score a bunch of nuts and bolts and spacers to get things lined up correctly, and also it's got believe it or not, it's got a belt drive. It's got a belt primary that's wet that takes mineral oil. It's kind of like a one-off deal
Whoa.
from back in the day. Yeah, it's craziness. So it's like you know what it looks like? It looks like a snowmobile belt almost, but it's cog.
It came
And,
like that stock.
Did it really?
No, I'm saying did it?
No. This is an aftermarket deal.
Okay, because you said it was a one-off, and I was like, did they? I was about to Google that shit. I was like, when did they do that? This is fucking weird.
It's an aftermarket kind of thing, and I've never seen it before. And this one shop that I dealt with, that like the old cat since like closed up and retired and disappeared, like everybody wants to do. And I've never seen or heard. And he used to keep one of these belts for me all the time. He's like, oh man, I'll keep that belt just because I know you got one. And I replaced it one time, and moved away and left and whatnot. But anyhow, long story short, with the training on that, pops out of first gear like as soon as you throw some power to it, unless you stand on the shifter. So I have some things that I wanted to go through on that. I was wondering what your expertise was in the iron head transmission realm as well.
I would look at the shifter detent and the shifter forks. Is it like fully engaging in first gear?
Yes,
It'll go in and
it's
just doesn't want to stay.
right.
Yeah, I would look at the detent, which is what keeps it in fucking gear. I don't know how to explain it. You got a manual?
I do.
Yeah, I would look in that section to kind of familiarize yourself with that. I think on those they have that. They had let me see your phone. Actually, I'm gonna look up a parts manual real quick. I want to look at a picture of it so I can explain this to you. But I think they have a. Have you been inside your? Have you ever been inside the 4-speed?
No. Nope.
Shit.
Just the top. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you've been inside the ratchet top then.
Right.
You pulled
just
the top off. Okay, so you know
Yes.
inside in the drum, on the on the side of the drum, there's like almost a little fuck, I don't know. It keeps the drum from spinning once it spins. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That does?
Yes, it does.
Fucking A. That's the detent.
Okay.
Like a clutch?
Nah, because when the drum spins and then it moves your forks, right?
Right.
So if you want to you don't want the drum to spin again because then it'll shift gears. So it
Right.
basically keeps the drum from
Oh,
free spinning.
okay. Yeah.
So that, and it's a spring load. It's under spring tension. So
Mm-hmm.
once it clicks into gear, it won't fucking spin again.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's probably what's happening with that iron head. Have you ever had the training out of that before or no?
No, haven't had that apart.
It's probably just wore out.
Most likely.
Because they'll wear out and then, they just get rounded.
Sure.
The corners
sure.
get rounded.
Why
Yeah,
is everybody
and
so spooky about the 79 Ironheads?
Because it's a fucking oddball year.
It is. It was that whole AMF deal, and Harley, swapping back, like no part, only 79 parts fit on it. You can't get,
I have a theory about that. I don't know if it's true.
lay it on me, dude. Lay it on me.
This is my theory. Did you ever see the Harley Cafe Racer?
Yes.
The XLCR, what I think is what it was.
Mm-hmm. That 1000, right?
Yeah. So if you look at, my dad had a 79, and if you look at the 79 frame geometry, it's a little fucking weird. It's like different than the other years.
Mm-hmm.
My theory is that they were running out Cafe Racer frames in 79, and that's why you can't find shit that fits them. Because it's always like you can't find exhaust. Like exhaust will run to 78, and then it'll run from 80 to, 84, 85 or whatever. But like all that shit will skip 79. I just have
Yeah. I mean, everything. Pipes, seat, everything.
It's all frame stuff, though.
Right.
Yep. So like
Exactly.
my theory was like, I wonder if they were just running out those frames.
Yeah. That's all they have left.
Because they that whole like FXR thing where they're like, oh, we just found some frames. It's like, motherfucker, you didn't just find frames. And then they're like, oh, we're going to run them out.
Yeah. We happen to stumble across a semi full of these frames. Let's go ahead and put them out there.
So yeah, I kind of wonder if that's what they was doing.
Transmissions always have been my like Achilles heel, man. It's like
Everybody feels that way. They're not,
You know what I
They're
mean?
not as scary as you think, but yeah, there's a lot of different moving parts.
it's not really, and you know what I mean. And really, what my issue really comes down to is like, if I had a solid like 48 hours to invest in like
Yeah.
messing with this thing, without interruption and having to go to work or
Right. Live a
you know,
life.
put my kids to bed or you know what I mean.
Right.
Just some whack, regular everyday stuff. So then I get, halfway through something and then I'm like, oh shit, man. I'm like, where did I put that fucking thing? And you know what I mean? Did I take that out first or was that in this way? Or,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it's like, damn it. Whereas most of everything else, man,
I
you
think
know what I mean?
that's the hardest part because we all want to work on our bikes, and then life just doesn't let you have time to do those kinds of things. We have 12 people in the community garage right now, all at various states of disarray with their motorcycles, and the ones that are there every day are the ones that remember how to do things and are the ones that follow through. But the ones that are sporadic, come in every other weekend or a month
Right.
once a month or that kind of a thing, like they're just having the hardest time getting stuff done. Yeah,
It's like if you can get the ball rolling and stick with it, I feel like, you know what I mean? You're like, oh yeah, it took this washer goes this way. And it's like, it's that brass and then this one and then that brass and then this needle bearing. You know what I mean? It's
definitely.
like,
Yeah, I'm notorious for labeling everything, over labeling everything, bagging everything.
Because it seems really obvious when you're taking it apart.
Right.
And you think you'll just remember
Yeah,
when you're putting it back together.
I know I
I'm
won't
guilty of that all the time.
yeah, for sure. That's definitely my downfall on it.
But I also have to learn the right terminology for things, not just label everything motorcycle bolt. It's just not helpful when you go put it back.
Bolt.
Motorcycle part.
Here's a part.
All right. Yeah. So, yeah, the Ironheads they don't have drums. They have these flat plates, which is actually the same flat plate they ended up using in the fucking turtle top transmissions when they thought that was a brilliant idea. And yeah, there's the D10 rides on that plate. around the outside of it, and that's what should keep it in gear. So my guess is that's what's happening with that.
Right. Either wear on that, or maybe the fork is bent a little, tweaked a little bit. You know.
Yeah, the fork could definitely be bent. I mean, usually when forks bend, they won't necessarily engage all the way, or it'll kind of do that thing where the two gears will go, da, 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 you know what I mean? Like it won't.
Right.
The dogs won't engage all the way.
Uh-huh.
But it could be shit. But my guess is that if you're having to like hold it
Yeah.
in first,
Yeah.
it's just popping out.
Right, and it's not. I mean, it's not a surefire thing. Like if you stand on the shifter, it's going to stay in. You know what I mean? It would still pop out, even if you're standing on it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I can see where you're headed, and you know what direction you're headed with that, and it seems logical. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's definitely going to
give
be my
yourself
second.
about 12 hours to take it apart and look
Seriously.
No, those are easy to pull. You just pull the primary, and then you got the trap door.
at it. Yeah.
Right.
The early Sportster transmissions are not terrible at all.
No doubt. That is definitely going to be my second project. But also definitely wanted to swing by the shop pretty soon and scope it out, because I feel like that would be a good spot to maybe tackle this seal, just because it's a little bit more structured. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. We are open Wednesday through Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. 6 p.m. But yeah, come on by and we could probably take a look at it.
Yeah, because I kind of want to
wrap for a little bit. You know
Definitely.
what I mean?
It's easier. Like we're doing this podcast, we're trying to answer questions, but that's it's almost, if we can look at something, it's so much easier.
The real answer to every question is bring it by the shop.
Let's have a look at it. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, if we can look at it together, then at least I can be like, oh, because I mean, you might have something that, because it's always weird to me when it's like, yeah, I had it and it was fine for a couple days, and then it fucking started doing it again. Like in my head, it's like, okay, well, the seal was replaced, but that wasn't the real problem.
Right.
Something is causing it to continuously leak.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, what's the real problem? Because like sometimes replacing stuff like that, you're just basically creating a fucking Band-Aid. You aren't actually fixing it.
Right.
Right. So I would like to figure out what the real problem is.
Definitely.
Other than it's just a 4-speed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what? I really went back and forth with putting a slick 5-speed in it when I went out. I'm like, man, I should just go ahead and put a 5-speed in this thing and be done with it. But I got it geared pretty prime, so it's not like screaming. I mean, I can do a $120 down the highway with it if I want to. You know what I mean? I'm not going to win any drag races, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
It's definitely pretty well rounded the way that I have it geared. So I don't really mind the 4-speed. You know, a lot of guys are crying, well, it feels like you need 5 more gears. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's fucking awesome.
I love 4-speed.
I think there's nothing cooler than just screaming down the fucking highway, dude.
Sure.
Just winding it out, just like fuck
exactly.
it.
When you go by somebody and the drag pipes are just screaming in their face when you go by, they're like, oh.
Exactly. Yeah,
it's great.
You're good.
That was definitely a Harley Davidson.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hey, at what speed is your bike comfortable to ride?
Around 100.
Okay.
What about yours, Trevor?
At right around 80, mine settles down a little bit.
Yeah.
Kind of sits
That's
in.
your honey spot.
Yeah.
Like I can cruise along all day, at just a touch under 100 and feel like I'm, cruising along at 70, Yeah, it rides pretty smooth at that. And, it's just that sweet spot in the motor. It's stroked a little bit. So it likes to, it has some legs, you know what I mean? It likes to get spun up pretty good, It likes to run high RPM. So that's kind of its niche up there. And well, that's where I like to ride it too. So, you know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. I appreciate it. And
no, hey, I appreciate the insight, man. And thanks for having me, on the podcast and all. And
yeah, thanks for participating.
Definitely a sick icebreaker, man. Would love to come by the shop, and just,
Yeah, just come hang out. Totally.
Just come hang out, talk shop, and just, throw some ideas around.
Yeah, do it.
Prevent gains being made on other stuff. While you can mess around with me and just tell cool stories.
Exactly. Let's just hang out.
Cool. All right.
Well, hey, thanks, Corey. I really appreciate it, man.
Thanks.
Appreciate you, Will.
Have a good one.
All right, bud.
Bye.
Fucking 4 speeds.
Hey, that was pretty good. That was a good call.
Hey, he didn't say anything about echo either.
Oh,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
wonder if
nice.
there's the echo.
Well, I have it wired a little differently today.
Oh, good.
I meant to ask, and I totally fucking spaced, and then he didn't say anything, so I didn't even think about it until right
I
now.
thought about it. I didn't ask on purpose.
Maybe we'll call someone else just to double check. So yeah, let's talk about that call real quick. So how was that for you, Corey?
That was fucking nerve-wracking.
Nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I just felt like an idiot the whole time.
Really?
Yeah,
Because I
absolutely.
feel like you explain things really well. I think you think that you're supposed to have an amazing answer, but really,
Well, yeah, that's why you're calling.
right? But for a lot of people too, it's more about talking through the issues.
I should just be like, it's a fucking Harley. Should have got a Honda.
Yeah.
Meet the nicest people on a Honda.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't call his iron head a boat anchor,
That's
though.
true. I was
Were you waiting for
I
it?
was waiting for it.
You're like, I got a 79 iron head. Oh, you got you. Where's the yacht?
Yeah. So something that keeps coming up that I want to get y'all's opinion on is how do we gain people's trust again in the mechanic world as
So hard.
mechanics? How is that? Because it's been demolished. I mean, just that guy's conversation just now. I mean, he
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
he took his bike 3 days later.
To the so-called professionalism of people.
Yeah.
You hear that shit all the time.
Yeah, you do. And I mean,
Sucks.
maybe those guys were not professional. Maybe those guys did a really terrible job.
They probably
on
were,
Will's
though.
bike. But maybe I don't know. And that's what's hard
I
about it
don't
is
know,
that
yeah.
like we don't know. There's no correct answer in that
Well,
respect.
I know that there's this weird thought that somehow the dealership is going to give you the best service or
Yeah.
anything. But my experience is with dealerships of all motorized things is that it is the worst.
Well,
at the
here's the
dealerships.
thing with dealerships. It depends on what tech you get. Because I worked at dealerships. But
That's what
dealerships
I
are
was
also
talking about.
dealerships are also that's your entry level too.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
You know, you get some dudes that like, I mean, I went to school, did the full 9, and that was to get a job at a dealership. So fresh out of school, I was working at a dealership. You know what I'm saying? But then I also worked with dudes at said dealership that had been there 18, 20 years. You know what I mean? So it's just like, that's really up to the service writer to give the job to the right technician.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So one thing that I was thinking about as far as the mistrust thing, I feel like the more that people understand about their motorcycles as a whole, as an individual, as like, a responsible motorcycle rider, then maybe they'll have a little bit more trust when they do go speak with a mechanic and they're speaking the same language.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the disconnect
Well,
there.
I think also too I think a big thing is that's probably hard for some dudes is like, all right, so that dude, so Will, right? He takes his bike in, fucking, it's doing this, it's leaking. Okay, cool, we're gonna do this. Then 3 days later, it's leaking again. They're like, okay, bring it back in or whatever. And then more than likely what they did, and this is where I think it went wrong, is more than likely what they did was just replace the fucking seal again.
Yeah.
And I'm coming at it like, instead of actually like, well, why the fuck did it go bad again?
Right. And so that's like what Albert Einstein, the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing
over and over again.
and
Yeah.
expecting different results.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But to answer the bigger question, I think, engine and frame, I mean, Corey, you've kind of painted yourself into a corner because you now run a community garage.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't just go to work anymore, right? So all your customers get to come talk to you
Well, that's the
Yeah.
point, though.
and drink coffee with you and be like,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
Hey.
the point.
from the start, that was intended. That was an intentional side of having both the
But I think
for-profit and
I think also the
nonprofits.
internet's painted everybody into a fucking corner. And if these other shops don't fucking get their shit together, they're going to go out of business. And that's just the way I see it. Because I was today on the phone with a customer, and I'm explaining it's that bike with the tensioners with the gear drive candle, and I'm explaining all the stuff to him, what went wrong, and he's telling me, "Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about because I was watching a video on that on fucking YouTube." So this dude is already coming into it educated,
Yeah.
up to speed. You know what I'm saying? So I can't bullshit him if I wanted to.
Right.
Good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like that's really leveling that fucking playing field because it's like it's going to force people to just be honest.
Right.
You know? And like I'm never going to come at somebody sideways like intentionally give them wrong information. I might make a mistake and fuck up. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I'm not going to go out like I'm not going to like try to fuck somebody over. You know? And the reality is now you just kind of can't because people are fucking smarter than you think these days. You know?
Yeah. It sucks when you have to be like honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to force people to be honest.
And so maybe that's the answer is just educating the general public, educating our customer base to understand
But one of the
bits about their bike so that when they do come and you do explain to them, they do understand why you have to do those things. Because reality is people working on their own bikes is not going to take any money out of the mechanics industry because they don't have the specialized tools. They don't have the all of the machinery and all of the like heavy duty shit that it takes to work on these bikes. But if they have an understanding of what it does take to work on those bikes, I feel like that relationship would be better in the long run.
And another way to build trust is just education anyway.
True.
Yeah.
Because I could tell you, I recommend this, blah, 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 and it's this much money, and you're like, okay, and then you go home, you get on the fucking internet, and you're going to look it up.
Right.
And if I bullshitted you, you're going to find out within 10 minutes. You're going to be like, that guy fucking lied to me.
Speaking of money,
Sure.
and I learned this the hard way or the old fashioned way. When you buy that $2,000 motorcycle, it's get ready to drop $2,000 more into it like
Definitely.
immediately.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And that's another thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is because you see cheap motorcycles everywhere. Well, there's a reason there's cheap motorcycles everywhere because there's a lot of non-working motorcycles everywhere.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, we have people ask us all the time what kind of bike should they buy to start with, and they're looking at the under $1,000, Honda or whatever. And it's like, I get that you want to just spend as little as possible to get on the road and ride, but
you ain't going to be riding. You're going to be fucking taking it apart.
Or you'll become very intimate with that motorcycle very quickly.
And it will take you a long time.
Yeah.
And you're going to spend some money putting it back together and finding the right parts. And especially if it's in an old vintage bike of any sorts. I mean, Harley, a Honda, whatever you're going to get.
Because they've been taken apart how many
Yeah.
times
Yeah.
before you got it.
It's like
So many
me
people
had that
already
bike
touched
before
that.
you,
Yeah.
and took it apart and put it back together.
Oh, yeah, because and that's one of the biggest problems usually with like iron heads.
Yeah.
It's because it's always, Sportsters have always been the cheaper Harley. So that's the first Harley, right? It's because you're like, oh, that's all I can afford when I was 18, 19, right? And then they're all of a sudden a fucking mechanic. You know what I mean? So they rip it apart and then sell it to some other 18, 19-year-old, 5 years later. And that guy's a fucking mechanic. So he takes it apart. By the time you got it, it's been through 8 of those dudes.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a boat anchor.
But that's the best part though, because then you get to fix it,
Yeah. And you get to learn in the process.
and then it becomes your
And then
motorcycle.
it's your motorcycle.
And you're like, man, there's a lot of silicone on this. Is that JB Weld?
All right. Do we have anybody else to answer questions? Any other phone calls today?
No, that's all I got.
Is that all we got for today?
I think that's it.
Tripper, you got football today?
We were in. That's first of all inappropriate
Why?
because you know that the Saints lost.
I did know that. Those were your peoples.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I don't know shit about sports, dog.
Oh.
I don't.
Well, I'm from down there, so that's all you need to know.
I'm from down there. You gotta say it like that. It sounds way more
Cool.
legit.
Well, I feel like that was a really solid first podcast. So we're gonna try this again next week.
Yeah,
Same
I'm here.
time, same place. If
Can
anybody,
we get Anxious Dave next week?
we could
You
get
think-
Anxious.
you think we
Is
could-
he
You,
gonna be
I got-
available next week? I thought he was gonna be out of town.
Not till February.
All right, maybe
We
we'll
need
have
to
a
get them
guest next
before
week.
February.
So if you're listening and you like what you hear, tune in again next week. Also, I'm going to have a little thing on the website for comments and keep those questions coming in so we can have content and shit to talk about instead of looking at each other.
True. Can we get some street life on?
Yeah. One second here.
Word. All right, y'all. Thank you. www.engineandframe.com. On the Instagram, Engine and Frame. On the Facebook, Engine and Frame. We even got a Twitter. It's Engine and Frame.
And Engine and Frame Community.
Oh, yeah, and we got Engine and Frame Community on Instagram, too. We got 2 Instagram pages.
That's just so I can post shit when Corey forgets to
That's
post
the
shit.
events page.
Yeah.
We're just fixing to own
Yeah.
Instagram.
When are we doing DJ karaoke again?
Tripper is the best DJ karaoke DJ.
All right, y'all. Gnar Talk, over and out.
I do good for good's sake, with no thought of compensation. And I've evolved to the point where I don't care a thing about getting rewards.